Hey everybody, welcome back to the War Boss Fitch channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to go into Grimdark Future Warfleets. Over the course of the weekend, I was contacted by a guy named Brander Roullett. I'm not sure if that's how you say his name, but he did tell me he'd see me do some Warfleets content, and he had some files for me to take a look at. So he showed me his My Mini Factory page, and I'll put a link down in the description and I'll put it up here on the screen. He is working on different Warfleets for one-page rules. Not working for one-page rules, he's just working on Warfleet models that are compatible with Warfleets. So because I have in the works right now our next big campaign, which is going to be next year in Grimdark Future, I said sure, absolutely, I'd love to take a look at it. Some cool bespoke fleets for the different factions. So you know me, I had to throw them right in my slicer and print out 3 of the different fleets. I did the DAO Union, the Saurian Star Host, and the Alien Hives. Plus a whole bunch of the markers that he made for all the different squadrons in the game. And because whenever I do play Warfleets on a large scale, I actually want to scale the ships down so that we can have more of them on the board at the same time. So here's me putting it up against the smaller version of the one-page rules Warfleets that they have on their store. What I've done is I've just taken his files and reduced it down to 50%. And what you see on the screen is a medium ship from one-page rules versus a large ship from him, but where I'm going to be the one that does all the models for the entire campaign space fleet, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Let's look at some fleets. So I was having a little bit of trouble when it came to Army Forge. It was kind of having some hiccups, so it wouldn't let me save lists. So I had to go back in and I rebuilt all 3 of the lists. This one here is a Saurian Star Host. It's showing at 495 because each of the large ships have this divine frog ability where they can spawn 2 squadrons that you don't have in the list, like Piranhas, Jaguars, or Serpent Squadrons. So what I did is I just added those in down here at the bottom, so whenever I do print the list, they're just going to be right on the sheet. I won't have to look them up. So the big focus on this fleet, the way I built them, is they are focused on big broadsides. So its 2 weapons are its turret and its quad beam. The quad beam is mounted in the side, and the rules for these ships is they have grand spine, where the turret gets twin fire, so it can fire twice, but can only be fired from the side, so it's just going to be a broadside weapon. On top of that, it has nuclear ammo, so those turrets get +1 strength, and wrath spines, so on a morale test, the turret gets +2 attacks until the end of the round. If it fails the morale test, the turret can't fire, so it's kind of a gamble there. But altogether, there's going to be a ton of shots coming out the side, and the quad beam rule itself, it can be fired at 4 different targets at once. So as it moves in, its turret is going to be blasting out of the sides, and then when it gets there, the quad beam is going to be doing damage to multiple targets. So we got 2 of those. We have a Megalodon ship. Same thing, we have the quad beam there, nuclear ammo, and the grand spine, so its turret can only fire out the side. It doesn't get the extra attacks on morale test, but it does have +1 strength. And then we got 2 Ichthyosaur ships. Just has grand spine and nuclear ammo, so it gets the twin firing turret and it can only shoot through the side. And they all have shell prow as well, so anytime the enemy attacks from the front, they get -1 strength. And just because it's built into the ship where the turret can't be fired in the front, I figured let's just do broadsides. Broadsides are awesome. Then the next one we're going to come to is the DAO Union. This fleet I built as missile boats. Ridiculous amounts of missiles. So starting off, we got a pod ship, the big ship. It has the Master of Missile title, so all friendly squadrons get +1 strength when dealing hits from the smart detonation rule. So all the missiles that we fire, as long as the pod ship's on the board, they're going to get +1 strength. And then on top of that, the Army's other stick is spotting lasers, just like the Grimdark Future Army. They love their spotting lasers. So spotting lasers, every time you hit with one of these weapons, they take 1 laser marker, and they don't roll to block it, so all you gotta do is hit them. Whenever friendly models fire at that target, they can take those laser markers, and they can turn each of them into +1 to hit. But that's not the focus of the missiles. We go down here to smart missile squadrons. We got 9 of those to begin with. And what you do with these, you run them into the enemy, then they explode. The enemy takes 1 hit with strength of 0, but because we have that missile title, it becomes strength of 1. And then you can choose to remove laser markers to increase the hits with each of your missiles. So something else that our pod ship can do is whenever you're within 12 inches, you can actually take all of your markers off of a ship and replace it with that many boarding markers. Boarding markers are pretty nasty. The enemy, when they activate, they roll a dice, and on a 4+, it gets rid of the marker, and if the marker stays, they take a damage. So we add up the spotting lasers, we drop some teleporter teams on there, it can wreck stuff pretty quickly. And then we have 2 coral ships. They have rotation guns, which are twin fire and anti-squadron, and then a rapid cannon out the front with twin fire. And then their systems are extremis arcs, where if the enemy has a laser marker on them, it doesn't matter what arc they're in, all the weapons can fire at them. So we got 2 coral ships. Their job mainly is to be linebackers. Take off towards the enemy. Anything that has laser markers on them, they can fire at them regardless of where the ship is pointing. And their 2 weapon systems can both be fired twice on different targets. Let's go down here to the silt ships. These are armed with threat arrays, which give more spotting lasers. They can fire at every enemy within 6 inches in any facing. So again, these are going to go forward with the shoal ships. And whatever they don't destroy, these guys are going to mark up. And because the threat array allows them to fire in all directions, they don't need the extremist stuff. They have a pulse engine. That means they're going to be going faster. And then we get into the actual missile boats, the shoal ships. They're armed with a turret that doesn't do anything. They don't have a gun there. But what they do have is a rangefinder. They have 3 attacks 18 inches with a spotting laser, and then their rule is missile ship. Once per activation, when not using a cruise or ram action, place 2 smart missile squadrons fully within 2 inches of this ship. So we have 3 of those. So every turn, as long as they don't move as fast as possible with the cruise action, they're going to be dropping 6 missile markers. So the board is going to be covered in missile systems. And then our third fleet is the alien hives. This one is kind of an all-rounder fleet I made for them. We got a harvester ship, it's a heavy ship, turret, swarmer, spike launcher. And then its title is a mothership, where we can place 2 new broodling squadrons fully within 2 inches of the ship, and then one of its systems is the nutrient repo. Once per activation, it can destroy one of those squadrons, and it removes a point of damage. So we have a harvester ship, then we have a matriarch ship, same weapons, same deal, mothership and nutrient repo, but this one has a pulse engine to go faster and a tractor beam. It can pick a ship within 8 and move it d6 inches +1 towards it, hopefully to get that swarmer within range. Then we got 3 guardian ships, also armed with swarmers, and they have predator assists, so the turrets get +1 to hit and +1 strength if the target has a higher max number of upgrades. This is a medium ship with only 2, so that means other medium ships or heavy ships is going to get +1 strength and +1 to hit. And then we got 3 worker ships, again with predator assists, where they're a light 1-1. That's going to be everything else in the enemy fleet. Their little 12-inch turret is going to be getting +1 to hit, and it's going to be strength of 1. And then to fill it out, 4 extractor squadrons. They work as a swarm, +1 to hit and +1 strength against ships for each other friendly squadron within 2. So if I run all 4 of them, they all get there unmolested and they all attack a target. It's going to be +3 to hit and +3 strength for each of them. And then a broodling squadron down here. It has no weapons. It's fragile and shielder. Whatever broodlings don't get sucked up by the nutrient repos, they can run around with the extractor squadrons. And if they stick around, they can take the hits instead of the extractors. Alright, so that's it for looking at the fleets. Now, we're gonna paint them. As usual, I start everything off with a gray primer coat, and then I do a white dry brush on them, and I just use, like you can see there, the really cheap Walmart apple barrel white. And then grab your big makeup brush that you're going to be using to dry brush stuff with, and you start going to town. So you know the whole dry brushing process. We went and did all of the fleets along with a couple of the squadrons. I put them on some nails with some blue tack. I reduced these by 50% as well. Normally they're about 25 to 30 millimeters. So we're going to start off with the DAO Union, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to color code these to my Grimdark Future armies. So my Grimdark Future army is mostly Sand Golem, so that's what I'm going to do for most of the DAO Union, like flashier colored armor plates. And here they are, the whole fleet is done up in that Sand Golem. So on to the next step. Next, we're going to do the superstructure of the ships, and for that I'm going to use Runic Gray, mostly because in the DAO Union army I have for the tabletop, there is not much like actual metal in them. Everything is kind of a pastel-ish, natural tone. So for all of the ship guts, everything, the engine housings, and the spines, we're going to do in Runic Gray. Now, for the missile ships, I wanted to kind of designate them a little differently. Because they have this cool little collar there, I'm just going to go back over it with white. I also did white on the big icons. Now for the guns, I'm going to use, again, the cheapo territorial beige. Just using that as another non-metallic, and I really kind of like the way that it pops versus the rest of the hull color. Now with that out of the way, it is time to do those big gaudy emblems on the front. So for that, we are going to go with Glittering Loot. Because in my mind, nothing screams DAO Union like a big gaudy gold emblem showing everybody that you are better than them. So now we got that done. Look at all that gold. Our next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in with some blood red for those missile collars. Just a little swipe, and they're done. Swipe, and done. We're also going to do it on our missile markers. We're just going to give them big old red racks of missiles. And because I forgot to do the Sand Golem on those as well, Sand Golem and then little dots of gray for the canopies. So that is it for the DAO Union. That's all the color they're going to get before we do all the washes and the space effect on them. Now we're going to move on to the Saurian Star Host. So my Saurian Star Host for Grimdark Future is blue and black. Plus they're going to want to put a lot of emphasis on those ridge spines. So we're going to do those up nice and pretty. So the first color we're going to start with is High Lord Blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lowest area of the armor and paint it blue like the skin of the Saurians. This way it looks like it's going to have armor plating all around it. And now our next step is going to be to use Grim Black to paint the armor panels. The speed paint Grim Black is good for using on black armor because it doesn't shade all the way to black all the way over, because if it did, there would be nowhere, you couldn't go any deeper, there'd be no shading it. Our next step is going to be to work on those spines. What we're going to use is polished silver. We're going to do that on all the spines, and also we're going to use that to hit the decorative greebling up there in the top. So with that done, we are going to grab a tub of Zealot Yellow, and we're going to put that over top of the polished silver. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a brighter type of gold than we got with the actual gold metallics. And even though it looks like it's really bright going on there, it's going to darken down and kind of enrich its color as it dries out. So that is the Saurian fleet color done. Now it's time for us to move on to the alien hives. Now for the alien hives, where they're organic, we're going to start off with peachy flesh for the skin tone. This is another one of those colors that when you put it on, it doesn't really look like it's going to be doing its job well. But once it dries out, you can get a pretty, in-depth, dynamic flesh tone out of it. So that is all the skin done. Now for the armor panels, we're going to use Desolate Brown. Desolate Brown is a color that I picked up recently just to do some experimenting with, and what it seems to be is like a pallid bone with a little bit of green mixed into it. So I think that'd be almost perfect for armor plates of a space-faring alien chitness leviathan. And that's the alien hives color done. Sometimes all you need is 2 colors. Now with everybody done, we went outside and I didn't take the camera with me to spray some gloss clear coat on them. And what that is going to do is it is going to let the oil wash I'm going to put on them flow a whole lot better into those recesses. I know oil wash can sound intimidating to some people, but all it is black oil paint mixed with mineral spirits, and you can get this from Home Depot for 20 bucks for a gallon. And you can mix it up to this consistency I have here, so it's just like Nuln oil. And you guys know I like to show my fails too, so this is me dropping the camera directly into the oil wash. Luckily, because it has so much mineral spirits in it, just a quick wipe on the t-shirt, and it's all good. Unfortunately, in all that confusion, somehow I turned the recording off and didn't turn it back on until I was already done with the washes. So just slather it on there like Nuln oil. It's real subtle from this distance, but we're going to go ahead and let it ride and take it to the next step. And this is as far ahead as I thought the night that I was painting these. As you can see, I painted the bases black. I finished up the first batch of markers. You can see I got that bright green paint on there so you can read them from arm's length. So yeah, that is 3 Warfleets done. Once again, I want to say go check out Brander Roulett's My Mini Factory page. It's linked down in the description. He is coming out with new fleets relatively fast, so by the time you see this, there might be something else on there. But that'll do it for me with these fleets. I got other stuff to go work on. Remember to like and subscribe, keep your brushes wet, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.